Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all. Real estate experiment, what is happening, y'all? Today I have a brother that I've gotten to know verily, let's start off nice, fairly well, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, on and off the air. We've been, involved in a few clubhouses. We have mutual connections, and it's just been a treat to really have Wil Slickers stepping into the lab with us, wearing his lab coat. And what's interesting about Wil, he's a true embodiment of an experimenter. As you guys know, in the lab, it's all about experimenting different concepts, being in the hospitality business, being in the content creation, podcasting world, which we love so much. I'm just so excited to unravel what Wil has to bring to the table. So Wil, welcome to the lab, my friend. What's going on, buddy?
Ruben, it's so good to see you, my man. I'm pumped. Thanks for having me on your show.
Absolutely. So Wil, you have a very interesting background. We were just talking about this, offline. You're dialing in from, you said it's a little bit above Seattle. Am I correct?
Yeah, I'm just an hour north. So if you look at the Canadian border in Seattle, I'm smack dab right in the middle.
Canadian. Have you been to Canada, by the way?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, because I'm Canadian. I don't know if you know that. We
I did not know that.
Yeah, come on, man. See, I told you some stuff in
all
here,
right.
man. So Wil, so you got to show love for the Canadian. Shout out to British Columbia, although that's a whole different type of market. I'm pretty sure it's actually one of the most expensive places to live in North America, something like that. I don't know if you knew that, because you're my data guy, but very interesting. But let's talk about your background for a second. I want to just level set, because I think it helps people get some context, right? Mm-hmm. So you are in the hospitality space, and you host a podcast about it, but you've also been involved on the management side. Am I correct? And you've also been involved, obviously we talked about the vacation rentals. You're doing some really interesting things in that space right now. You've created some awards, which I want to hear about, because I'm like, when I read them, I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because I found out about you when we were in Clubhouse. I think it's like the Destinationaire Award is what you have. You're the host of the Hospitality Podcast and the Good Morning Hospitality. And you say you want to be the Joe Rogan of the hospitality. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I didn't coin myself that. Somebody else did.
Somebody else said it. Okay, even better, because I don't know, man. You can call it, speak it into existence. Let's go back for a second, man. Wil, how did the journey start as far as when it comes to hospitality? Because it's such a broad umbrella. We talk about real estate, and then there's hospitality. So talk to us about your background into the hospitality space, and where you feel that you step in, and what do you offer as far as the marketplace goes?
Yeah. So really the background starts when I was very young and 19. I had a rough start, in the beginning. I got myself into some trouble. And after that, realized I needed to kind of get my act together. And I kind of accidentally became an entrepreneur by starting a show for an event company, because I couldn't find a job. So I was like, I'm just going to, wait outside it's arena in this town, Spokane in Washington, and just Uber people to their hotel, just for a cheap trip. And then Uber actually came in a year later. So I could not compete. I grew multiple chauffeur drivers and had a party bus and all this other stuff. And it was just okay, too much overhead, can't do it. So I actually closed that business. But when I got into hospitality was when I worked for a 4-diamond hotel under Marriott. So I remember picking up some guests there from that hotel. Loved the ambiance of the lobby. Very luxury, suit and tie, clean look, that, just awesome feel when you get to a nice hotel. And I fell in love. I applied, got hired on the spot, and that's where my journey began. I never looked back, worked my way up to management and the boutique side of hotels, and short-term rentals and podcasting, and kind of just all, it was a snowball effect, one after one.
So that's fascinating, because I always say we're in the people business, right? So It's really important to understand. So you must have a very interesting angle when it comes to, when you're talking about 4-diamond, we were just talking about this, offline. You talk about systems, you talk about, taking care of the customer. What stood out to you right away when you were literally planted in that ecosystem, you're brand new, suit and tie, everybody's here, oh shoot, what was the thing that kind of jumped out at you, wow, this is this is how it works.
Yeah, it was really ingrained in me, really right in the beginning. You know, take care of the guests, take care of the guests, take care of the guests. All the systems and the like, you have to obviously know the basic core standards for Marriott and your service standards, like saying my pleasure instead of, oh yeah, of course, you know, like just certain little things that you had to learn. But on top of that, after that was ingrained in me, it was really just do what I can. It was such a high pace that you just like do anything you can to get the guest happy. And whether it's, you know, their credit card declined and they're trying to figure out why their travel restrictions were not working or who knows, whatever else. So you just have to find a way to make sure that you can amend the system. And you learn a lot through that because you have so many different little things that can maybe upset one person, but doesn't upset another. And they react differently. So you're really learning about people at a deep level where body language, tone of voice, lack of eye contact, or too much eye contact, and proximity, and you know certain fidgeting that they do with their hands, or their micro expressions. Which, if you've seen the show Lie to Me, I thought was something that was complete BS, but actually like being involved, like with people at a high level, you can pick up on that stuff pretty quick. So that was just kind of the big thing that I picked up right away and was like, okay, this is not like a, hi, how can I check you in or check you out today? It was a deep, like, I felt like an analyst at the end of the day.
So is it one of those things, because we talk about the word experiment, which is pretty much you start just to learn. As far as learning on the fly and as far as the systems that were there to help you, what can you say was, okay, that was more of like, I had to figure it out on my own. And part of it was, oh, wow, this is like, if a great system is in place, X person, no matter who it is, whether it's Will, Bob, or Joe, or Sally, can succeed. Can you let's talk about the experimenting part, and then let's talk about the system part. What did you experiment on your own and that you quite frankly had to?
Yeah. Well, I was checking people in pretty quick after I started working there at that hotel. And the one thing I noticed is that there was a set, you know, everyone was taught a certain way of how the software works. So like what column to start in with a check-in and how to end a check-in. So like kind of like the segments of that software system. But then what the experiment was, after I learned the basics of, okay, the name here, the card here, the room type and room number here, and then finish, and how it all flows together, that I had to learn my own script or my own style of how I wanted to interact with the guests. Brendan did it completely different. He had a very soft, quiet tone. Jared was very excited and, you know, pointing at all the local restaurants and coffee places and getting the guests excited about the destination. And then there's Hannah, who was more focused on the journey. How was your trip here? Why did you fly? Did you drive? Are you here to visit family? Like, she was all about like their reason of here, and picking up from every single one of them on their style. I had to play with and find my own. Did I want to be more like Jarrett? Did I want to be like Brendan? Did I want to be like Hannah? What could I have done to be Wil Slickers, so that way whenever my guests were checking in or checking out, that they would have a different, unique experience that none of the other three could provide. So that was the experiment for me.
Okay, so we're trying to be like Slick Will, by the way. So we got to be like, what is one thing, what one line you think, or one go-to that usually kind of like just eases out a situation? Is there something that comes to mind? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I just think I like leaving the listeners with something tactical. Like, is there something that you feel at a human level we can all start doing to make sure that we start understanding each other, making sure that we give the other person kind of the benefit of doubt or whatever, putting them at ease? Is there anything that a go-to? We'll quote you on this. We'll tweet it. We'll put it out there. What is that? What is that one thing Will likes to say to accommodate another human being?
Yeah, it's just have empathy. Like, honestly, they don't know how your guys' system or software works, or how you have to check a person in or check a person out or do a cleaning or anything like that. They don't know that stuff. Like, that's something that you do. So when they're upset about something, I always have to say, I can't get upset back, right? I can't like retaliate and be like, well, this is how we have to do it, because they don't care. They don't understand. So I need to have empathy and understand they don't know my system and what I'm doing. So I always say, I'm so sorry, or my apologies right away, just to give them the ability to understand, like, I hear you. I'm not going to try to get defensive. I'm not going to try to be saying you're wrong, because at the end of the day, I need to find a way to understand your thought process, your feelings, how you are going about this. So I usually just go, Ruben, my man, I am so sorry about this. Like, this is something that I definitely could have prevented. Usually you just take ownership and let me go ahead, work through, see how I can fix this with you. Whether it's, let's say, I put you in the wrong room type. You booked a king and I gave you a queen.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be like, Ruben, I mean, I totally understand. You're probably a tall guy. I would hate sleeping in a queen bed. Like my feet would be dangling. I wouldn't be able to cover them up at night. I totally get it. So let me go ahead and look for an upgrade for you. I'm going to give you a complimentary drink voucher as well, because I just think this is something that I want to own up to and show you that we care, that this isn't something I would take lightly. If I was in your shoes, I would want, this to be amended really quick. That's just an example. It's just really understanding that the more you just have, empathy is key. You just can't get defensive.
Well, I love that, because I think that's for everything, right? I mean, funny, my coach said this today, it was actually yesterday. I was listening to him, and it was like, let your worst like headache clients, like let those try to turn those into a best, right? Because what happens is, you have to, what I love about what you said is it's empathy, and you have to put yourself in their shoes. So if they don't know your systems, they don't know how hard you work, they've never met you before, maybe this is their first time staying with you, they don't know what to expect, they don't know who you are, right? They don't know how hard you work. So you have to, it's all context. You have to kind of put yourself in their shoes and be like, okay, if I didn't know the kind of, expectations that we have, and this was a situation, I would be upset too. And I love how you said it, because you're literally rephrasing it. I'm like, okay, this guy understands me. And I think at the end of the day, everybody just wants to be understood. Like, I think I was dealing with a situation on the phone the other day, customer service, and they was just the fact that they understood. Yeah, if that was me, he just said, I completely understand. I'd be very frustrated as well. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I'm not crazy. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's well put. I think that's important. You said a key word, and it was such a great segue. You said they don't understand the systems and processes that go behind the scene. Let's talk about that for a second. Like a Diamond Hotel, what do we not see as the day-to-day, hey, give you my card, we out of here, or we here, like we expect everything to be nice. Like what goes behind the scenes that really, when you first started, jumped out at you? I know you talked about the booking system, beginning, end and stuff, but can we talk a little bit about like what, maybe the credit that you don't even get enough of the behind the scenes, or the amount of, labor and systems that go into place from just literally having one stay? Like, can you talk about that and unravel that so we can be a little bit more aware and maybe have empathy for you guys who are working so hard on the other side?
Yeah, well, thankfully I'm no longer behind the front desk anymore. So it's been a cool transition. But the one thing that, like at a 4-diamond property, so you're having constant communications with all departments. So I had a radio earpiece at all times. So while the guest is either talking to me or upset or maybe happy, I'm having people in my ear the whole time. Valet, room service, security.
What are they saying?
Oh, they're, everyone's, back and forth, communicating with each other, maybe valet's
it's a radio
got an issue.
line.
Yeah, it's a radio. Yeah.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So you're listening to the whole hotel move at the same time, while I'm also trying to be aware of not like just a normal check-in process, but understanding we have a certain ADR, occupancy, turnover, room type, housekeeping report, rooms under inspect, rooms under dirty, rooms under clean. Like you have a lot of stuff that is going on at once, like especially the hotel with 716 rooms. So managing the amount of penthouses, amount of junior suites, the presidential suite, the governor suite, the double kings, the kings, like you had 6 room types that you're keeping inventory of. That's changing on the spot because you got 3 other people doing the same thing as you, checking people in. So behind the scenes is pretty much you're a salesman because you're trying to get them maybe to upgrade. You're trying to get them to sign up for the Marriott Rewards program, but then you're also trying to give them, recommendations of local restaurants. And then you're trying to make sure that their car is being taken care of by valet and you're charging the right amount. Then you got room service who's, ready to rock and roll and get them some drinks up to their room or whatever. There's just a lot of moving parts. So just being understanding how they all tie together and picking up on certain cues that the guest is talking about or that they're maybe not talking about, so that way you can recommend different things better. There's just a lot. I don't even know how.
I'll help you out here. So talk about. I'm very curious. You talk about the upsell, and I'm a marketer. Right? I'm a digital marketer, so I'm like, okay, I heard there's like a funnel within the hotel. That's what I heard. Yeah. So how often do you what's the conversion rate on that? Like if I'm booking, how you usually typically I feel like, and then this is great marketing to be like, oh yeah, by the way, we threw that on the house for you. I'm like, okay, sure, all right. So what's do you guys convert often on upgrades? Like how does that, how pitch me on an upgrade right now?
Yeah. Okay. So let me walk you to the next hotel that I worked at, where I became a general manager of on the Oregon coast, because we had a little bit older system in place. We had paper reg cards for the guest.
Mhm.
And on these paper reg cards, you see like the guest name, the room type, their date of stay. You have whether they book through an OTA or direct, email, phone number, you have all the information. So, being like the marketer that you are and that I am as well, I want to capture as much of the OTA traveler to become a converted direct guest.
Hey, can you just
So,
level set? Because I know we're very jaded when we say the word OTA.
mhm.
For some of our listeners who maybe are not so familiar on this hospitality side, could you just kind of
Yeah.
give insight on what that is?
So, online travel agency, so Expedia, Booking.com, Airbnb, any kind of platform that offers accommodations other than the property's website directly. Online travel agent. So, for us to get that guest to book with us directly, so we're not paying commissions to these online travel agents, is I took these reg cards and I was the manager and I was looking at my team, and I had Debbie, who's been there forever. Let's just say her name's Debbie. She's been born and raised in the town. Then we have Jeff, who is brand new but really good with people, and then we have maybe Sally, who's a little rough around the edges, but if you can get her talking about something that she likes, she's fantastic. So I took these reg cards and I highlighted all the guests that came from an online travel agent, and I highlighted their room rate, I highlighted their room type, and I told my agents and said, if you can get them one room type above what they booked at a $20 difference or more, you bring this back to me. They have sticky notes on them. They bring the sticky note back to me, and whoever has the most at the end of the month gives a certain commission. And let's say every one of them brought me 5 or more, I would make sure that they all got a commission split between all of them, or there's a certain amount. So the way we would do it, it was fun. It became a game. And I'm sorry if I'm kind of rambling a little too much.
No, this is great. This is what we want. We want the insiders. We're
Okay.
in the huddle right now.
All right, cool. I was like, because it was a little bit older system, so this was like there's a lot of little steps, but it ended up being really fun. So as you're checking in a guest, they would see, okay, let's say we knew we're at 30% occupancy that night, and we had a bunch of guests coming in for a studio and a 1-bedroom, but they're all the non-view rooms. I want to get them looking at the river, the sunset, the ocean, whatever the good view is. But I also want them in a higher room type, which is like a 1 or 2 bedroom. So saying that, okay, all right, Ruben, you're checking in today. Hello, Mr. Ruben. How are you doing today? How's your trip? So excited that you're here. You say, oh, thank you so much. I'm checking in for 2 nights. Well, great. We got you in the studio room, and I see you brought your fiance and you have a dog. We love dogs here. We're very pet friendly. Just an FYI, I highly recommend, to be honest, like 2 nights. I probably, like, if it was 1 night, I would have been like, hey, Ruben, you're fine. This was going to be a great room. You guys are, going to be on the beach most of the time anyways. But here for 2, and it can be a little cramped in there sometimes, especially with the dogs, got a lot of energy, going to the beach and getting all sandy. I would love to see you guys enjoy a river view room with a balcony overlooking the river right now, because I know this isn't just a 1-night trip where you're just going to be sitting around and not doing anything. Like, I want you guys to enjoy it. So I have a discount for you. It's only 20 nights or $20 a night. So if you want to take this up, most of the time this sells for like $40-$50 extra a night. And I just want to get this settled for you guys. I'll even waive the pet fee just so that way you guys make sure, you're comfortable and not feeling a little cramped in your room. Do you feel like you want to upgrade?
What? Shut up and take my money.
Yeah, so it's a little bit
that
longer.
was so natural. You know what I liked about that? It was about you're selling the experience and you're making them feel like they're winning. It's a win-win, right? I mean, they are. You're selling them something more. They have to spend more. You're winning. They're winning. So yeah. I like how you pitched that. And I think what was key for me, what I heard there is you said, I'm throwing you a discount on this offer. Depending on how large it is, it's a discount, right? But
they don't know that either way. If they're in their studio or if they're in this room, I'm not losing. Like, it's not going to make me money sitting there empty. So I might as well give it to them for a cheaper rate than if I were to just let it sit there on all night long not being booked. So for me, it makes sense. I'd rather get them in at a lower price. Granted, if the occupancy rate was at 90% and we only had 2 of those rooms left, I would probably go in like that $50 extra a night. Like, that's, supply and demand.
Yeah. Yeah. Will, you talked about your overhead in your other business, which was interesting because one thing that I think about in this very similar in the hospitality industry and the travel agency, like you talk about like a flight taking off and it has empty seats. I'm wondering, like, same thing, right? Like you have a night that's going to end and there's empty rooms. Um, I guess what I'm wondering is how much do you more can you discount those rooms so that you're I guess breaking even, or like to the point that it makes sense. Like, is there a formula? Is there a number you guys use by? Do you just want to make sure you're covering your cleaners? Like, how does it work at a macro level? Because I can imagine maybe if you're thinking about your Airbnb, you want to cover the cleaning fee for some of our listeners who are in the short-term rentals. But for such a big operation like that, what as you as the manager, how do you define how low you can go?
Yeah, it's a good question. So you pretty much take down the total units and the cost per unit. So how much am I spending a month on my toiletry invoices? So when I'm buying the shampoos, the conditioners, the bar soap, the makeup remover, all that stuff. Think about trash bags, trying to think of other stuff in the room, but you think about all the stuff that's in a room, right? When you go to a hotel, you think about all those costs, you add that up. Okay. Now you take your average metric of housekeeping for let's say a 1-bedroom. How long does it take a normal housekeeping team to clean this room from checkout to check-in? So let's say it takes them a 1-bedroom suite. It takes them 35 minutes to clean. They strip, they vacuum, they wipe all the floors, they get it all up to standard, they get it all ready. So you take that total cost of labor. So you're paying them however many dollars an hour, let's say 15, takes them 35 minutes. You got 2 of them. So roughly that's about what I would say $15 for a 1-bedroom suite, not including your amenities. So you add your amenities costs, calculate what your average, energy, water usage is per unit out of the whole building. And then that is your base number, break even number. So let's say it costs $35.
Is that like a number? Just we want the juice, Will.
Yeah.
The 700, is that like?
No, for the last hotel I was at, the 70-unit condominium hotel, we had to at least cover the cost of turnover, which is a $35 rate. So that was a minimum, because we had 2-bedroom suites as well, where they're a little bit longer to clean, right? It costs a little bit more. So on average, it's about $35.
Well, talk about a markup, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what the industry average markup is? Like, I know in short-term rentals like Airbnb, we talk about like you can 2 to 5x, right? Like the mortgage. What are your margins that you're looking for to cover in that kind of industry, in the hospitality and the hotel industry?
Yeah, well, it goes into seasonality too, but like during the off season, we were selling rooms. I would say our studios at like $80 a night. So, that's not a big markup, but you mostly, again, that's when you try to fill up all those studios that you can sell them at a lower rate, try to upgrade them to another room type. So now you have more inventory to sell at a lower rate and try to get in, and it becomes a funnel, a big cycle.
How can what are you using what kind of tools? I got 2 questions for you. The first, the inventory, I'm very curious about that. And 2, the kind of tools that you're using. So, tools as in like applications. Is there one that, I know we hear those words being thrown around a lot in some of these clubhouses that we've been, but what are some of the applications that's kind of industry standard or best tools that we're using for management?
So you're talking like on property for a hotel?
Yeah. Like, is there a place like a dashboard where you're looking at all this stuff? What keeps you lined up?
We used TravelClick. I don't know if you've heard of them. They got, I think, bought out by Synexis or somebody, or Apex, but pretty well known like hotel software company. They're a little bit more updated than your average Oracle product or whatever.
Wow, really?
So yeah, so it was like, I liked it compared to Oracle, but one little thing that I don't think most people know, and it really, I think, depends on market. This was a little trick I started using. It was a free tool that when you go on kayak.com, it's a search engine. It's pretty much that's all it is. It's a search engine that connects to a bunch of other online travel agents to find you the best deal. You actually can use that in your market. Let's say you Google Seaside, Oregon, for your certain date range that you're trying to sell rooms. It will show you what every property in your comp set is selling their rooms on what OTA. So that way you can, go look through your rates and say, are you comparable in the market? Are you too high? Are you too low? Are you right, at the right price? Because then that can actually help your revenue strategy, because there's revenue management at a high level, like you do a monthly review, a weekly review. Well, there's this thing called yield management, whereas you're constantly watching your rates and how the market is reacting in that moment, in that time, and you're adjusting as supply and demand increase or decrease.
Absolutely. So one thing I got to ask you, man, is, and I gotten one plug before, but I'm curious, we talk about inventory scale, like towels, toilet paper, etc. Is there an industry like monopoly or plug that someone is using that to get these at scale that maybe some of our listeners could even tap into? Or is that just for the big boys?
So to buy these products and get them at a certain high volume. I've heard of, I don't know if it's Host to Go. I don't know. I've seen the founder on Clubhouse, where basically they tried to find these industry standard linens, towels, etc., toilet papers or toiletries, and they negotiate to these distributors or whatever manufacturers to get a lower volume. It's still at that discounted price that a hotel would get for the bigger volume, for Airbnb people on the short-term rental market. So I've heard good things. I haven't used it myself because I'm a big fan of uniqueness for properties and finding, whatever if there's a local shop that provides stuff like that as well, trying to circle it through. But that's one tool, maybe plug we can give for the audience.
Yeah. And when you say local shops, is that more like you could do that at a 700 room scale, or you're talking more boutique hotel?
Yeah, I'm talking short-term rental on that side. Yeah. Short-term rental. Like if you have a great local community that has a bunch of local business owners, we've worked with one here for one of our properties. She makes high quality, high thread count linens, like some nice stuff, like some stuff that I probably wouldn't see in a 4-diamond hotel, like really good. And we partnered up with her and said, hey, we got this unit. It's got 3 bedrooms. We want to do 3 par per bed, and we want to advertise what you're doing. We think, people always comment on how comfortable the bed is and how great they sleep here. So I want to send them your way, so that way they can have the same night's sleep that they just had with us, at home.
Absolutely. That's super cool, man. I really like that. It's really cool, how you've been able to experience that at scale. And the reason I'm curious is because you've seen it at a very high scale, and now you can kind of also compare it to the boutique side. So talk to me about the boutique hotel. Is that something you spent some time in? Is that something you're actively spending time in right now? Because I know you're making a lot of movements lately with the podcast, which I want to get into. I want to give you a big congratulations, because I know you've been able to score some really well-known names in the industry when it comes to vendors. And so I want to tip my hat towards you towards that. But as far as where people can find you today, are you actively involved still, or you've kind of transitioned out?
Yeah, good question. So December 27th, 2019 was my last day as a hotel manager. I will never forget giving my 3-week notice and taking on the podcast full time, as well as my management company for short-term rentals. So been over a year now of entrepreneurship at a full scale. So I'm really excited.
That's fascinating. So now, as far as that's a big shout out to Recreation in my
Recreation.
Recreation. Yeah. The French in me. Recreation Vacation Rentals. I'm trying to say it properly. You're co-founder and destination director. Can you tell us, the listeners, what that entails as far as who you're really serving now, what your kind of day-to-day is, because you've obviously had so much different experience in that space. And I would love to see what you've chosen to tap into in your entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah. Well, my business partner, he's a 25-year hotel veteran. So he has worked in a high scale of, St. Regis and all these other big, companies on a grand scale of hotels, very good luxury properties. Um, he's a systems guy. He is all about, like, I love it too. Like, but my energy where I get amped up and where I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, I get to do this. Is when I say destination director, is I get to focus on getting the systems in place with him in the beginning, and then finding ways to now make my whole goal is to get bookings and to make sure that those guests are having the best time no matter what. Like, I get to go to the local coffee roaster, into the local brewery, into the local disc golf course, and find ways that we can partner up and sell their product or advertise their product or just refer each other for any type of business. So I get to focus on the destination itself. That's where I get energy. I get amped up knowing that one of my guests can go look at a honey bee hive taken care of by a local chiropractor here in this town, that he personally has hundreds, if not almost a million bees that he takes care of and has honey from. Like, just super cool stuff like that, that when you have the right systems in place on the back end, where you have your automated messaging, where you're able to set up a system and be aware of, like, obviously when you set up a system, it's trust but verify, right? So it does its
Absolutely, I
thing.
love that.
Yeah, it does its thing, and you just make sure it's running smooth, so that way you can spend the rest of your time doing what you love, and that's what I get to do. So that's
That's
kind
awesome.
of my job in a nutshell.
You're a creator, man. And so, just to give people some context, is this now more at the boutique level hotel level?
Yep. So I don't do any hotels. We're doing strictly vacation rentals right now. So we have a 9,000 square foot home coming on board. We have a beach house coming on board, and then we have another unit. It's just a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. But actively in conversation with more people. So we are actually looking and have been talking to individual boutique hotels to become co-hosts and operate and sell their rooms on our system by selling it on OTAs such as Airbnb or on our direct website. And then they manage the guest upon check-in and check-out, which is a different type of model that we're not used to, but we've gotten a lot of interest from hotels in the area. So we're looking at that as an option.
Okay, and these beach homes, these vacation rentals, are you and your partner, are you doing because I know my listeners may or may not be familiar. I've been introducing them to this new bright side. I was going to call it dark side, but just so bright and just lovely. This short-term rental. So is it more of the management? Is it like a master lease agreement? Like, how are you guys doing these arrangements of the management?
Yeah, 100% management agreement. So we actually, at first, we were just saying 20% of all revenue. We keep the cleaning fee because we are obviously hiring the cleaners and the maintenance people and the inspectors. But we're actually looking at a new model as well to go, okay, let's say that 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit only makes $40,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. It made $40,000 more than it would have, not being rented. But that's not a lot of volume for us at a 20% commission scale. So we actually up it to 30 for the lower annual revenue. But for the 9,000 square foot home, expected to make $170,000 a year minimum before our improvements, because obviously we're going to over deliver on that. We're going to crush it. We say we'll go down to that 20% commission mark because the nightly rate is at a higher scale where, $150 a night and 20%, it's not a lot of money. Yeah. But $1,500 a night at 20% commission rate. Yeah. That could be a pretty good chunk, especially when you're making 25 grand in July. So
that's fascinating. Good for you, man. Well, I know you're gonna have extreme success in you're in with whatever you embark in. So I'm very excited. I want to tap into the other side and I want to definitely give you a big shout. I know recently you've been able to get some key sponsorships with Hostfully, Noise Aware, Safely. So big congrats on that. That's a big deal. We know those names in the industry. If you're in the industry, you're like, oh wow, that's very impressive. As far as that goes, that transitions into kind of like your world of podcasting. from your experience into someone who's listening out there, I know you've done a very good job. I know we've talked about this offline of getting strategic partnerships. I mean, you talked about going to the local coffee shop and forming relationships, etc. What would you say is the biggest tip you can give someone who's interested in like, wow, how did Wil do that? Those were some big names. Like, what is the kind of tactical approach that someone could take if they're looking to, again, earn the way you've been able to earn these strategic partnerships?
Yeah, and I'm actually kind of really glad you asked that question, because that is something I haven't been able to answer until recently. Like after going throughout, the last 3 years of trying to be like, full-time entrepreneur and learn there's so many lessons you learn. So my number one advice is honestly find the people that you align with the most. Like you have to know yourself at a deep level. In my opinion, you have to know your mission. You have to know your why. You have to know what your goals are, and you have to find companies or people that align with that, because, I've had other sponsors and I've worked with other people in the industry, and we had different ideas and different goals, which is fine. But when it comes to a partnership, when you don't align in that area, your end goal is this and their end goal is that, it's kind of hard to work together, because what does that happen? You start out here, but you end up apart, right? So for me, it was just really working with people that I aligned with in, ethics and business operations. So like I'll use NoiseAware for an example, because they believed in me since day one, like 2019, when I quit my day job. They were like, yeah, how can we be a part of what you're doing? Like we've had people in our office listen to your show and we love it. And
oh, wow. So
like,
very strategic decision. So just to give some context, because I don't want to leave the audience with some like, oh, damn, like that was interesting, but like how do I do it?
Yeah.
You talk about an alignment. That's a very high level. It's kind of like when people say you got to want it. What does that look like, Wil? Like, do I start looking at like how they're serving their people, and then what exercise am I doing to also make sure that, hey, this is where I want to go and this is where they're going? Like, what's tactical? Do I go on their website? Do I go on their LinkedIn? Do I reach out? Like, what's tactical for someone to actually take action on?
Yeah, thanks for asking that, because sometimes I forget the step by steps. I think about the big picture too much. Well, there's a lot of ways, and for me, it was just kind of, I think, dipping your toe in the water at first and just having that conversation with them, seeing what their goals are, what's the company about. But then you can also see, like in Facebook groups, I'm pretty sure we're all a part of at least 20 Facebook groups, right? And of industry stuff. And you can see how people are reacting to these products and companies. And it's unbiased too, because you don't know who the hell they are, who these people are that are talking about X, Y, and Z company. They're giving an honest opinion, an honest experience, or they're asking questions, and people are giving their honest feedback on how they've experienced, said product or company. And you can take that and filter through, like, okay, I've seen a lot of negative. Let's say it's Ruben's.
Whoa, you can't say negative and then say Ruben. What's going on here? So, dude,
No,
hit the pause button.
No, I was gonna say, I was like, you see, let's say rubenshairco.com or whatever, and you see a lot of good comments about it. Like, this product is really great, it helps me out a lot. But then you see, a competitor product, let's say it's willshairco.com or whatever, and the hair gel just doesn't work for me.
No. Wil, if it's Wil, it works. I just want to put that out there, guys. If you're listening, if Wil has a stamp on it, it works. So let's come up with another name.
Okay, well, fine. We'll say.
I don't want to throw anybody under the bus now. Joe Schmo is always a safe bet.
Joe Schmo, Hair Co. You see a lot of negative complaints. Like, that's just, for me, you can tell you, like,
no, that's good. That's good. I get that. That's interesting. So I guess the next thing I would ask is, like, okay, what happens next? Because I'm a big, like, the way I've had, I don't want to call it, it's not even success, it's experiments that have gone well, would be like, I reach out to people. Like, I DM people, voice messages, videos. I guess what's kind of been your thing because I think it's really important for us. We call this experimentation. It's like, you got to experiment these things. And maybe there's something we can take from this is like, you know what, I'm going to try to shoot a video. What has worked for you, you feel, when it comes from like, you know what, this is a big dog and I want to align myself with this big dog company. What's my next step?
Yeah, in the beginning, I started by Facebook, and that did not work at all. Nobody responded to Facebook messages at all. Like it was never a thing. I tried Instagram, got a little bit of traction, but the one thing I feel like people will always respond to, or at least you'll have a better conversion rate with, is email. I'm actually like now for our guests, this is kind of a side note, but like for guests that book our place or anything else outside of like the podcast, we actually do customized video. So saying thank you for booking with us. We're so excited, like showing a real face to the name. But with like strategic partnerships, email is always really good. And just be honest, like when you're creating an email, like keep it short and sweet, introduce who you are, kind of give a little snippet about yourself. Like I'm Wil Slickers. I started in Fort Diamond Hotel. Like I love short-term rentals too. I've just gotten to the space. We have a management company. Like granted, this has been me like 4 years ago. But like just saying, being honest, a little snippet. I saw your product online. I've been seeing you guys on Instagram and Facebook. I love the brand presence. I love seeing that people actually really like the product. I would love to see if I could just take some time to chat with you, see if we align on any of this content I'm creating on my podcast. What do you think? And just kind of leaving in their court. It's really open, it's genuine, and it's kind of short and to the point. Nobody likes, and this is one thing I absolutely despise, is that being a podcaster is I get probably 5 to who knows however many more emails from PR agencies that are copy and paste, change my name, and some of them even forget to change the podcast that they're sending it to. So I've been called whatever X, Y, and Z hospitality podcast that has nothing to do with me and I've never even been on or heard of. So I hate generic, but if you could just do something really short and sweet and to the point, I feel like you'll get a better response than you would with copy paste, copy paste, copy paste.
I love that, and I love how you said. I don't know if I want to make sure that this doesn't slip through the cracks, and it's very important. Is being genuine. I think, we're in the flexing age, man. Everybody wants to flex, but the problem is when you flex a muscle that you don't have, you might miss out on the opportunity of someone willing to help you because they see a little bit of themselves in you. I know I've said that a little bit, like that's starting out is a benefit, like it's beneficial. And it's, I say number one, it's usually age, youth. And then number two is just being vulnerable and being completely, hey, I'm new to this industry. And I think people respect that because anybody who's done something great remembered what it was like to start from the bottom. And so 100%. I'll leave you guys with that. And I appreciate you, Wil. See, we got a chance to unravel that a little bit. See, because we get caught up, we're like, we get there and then we forget the process, but I love the process. And I think that's just, you ironed it out so well. Thank you for that alley-oop, because the next alley-oop that you gave me is the whole podcasting, which is you're doing a wonderful job. I'm humbled to be having you in our lab as a guest. But then being, you someone who's doing it at scale, and you've been able to, like you mentioned earlier, break away from the management job, and now you're doing podcasting full time. You're getting sponsorships. You're also growing your management business. I mean, it's so refreshing. How important has podcasting been for you in your journey, and how much of a catalyst it's been, man? Talk to us about that.
If I did not have the podcast, I would not be here today, to be honest. The podcast changed my life. When I was, how old was I? It was 4 years ago. So I was 22, almost 23. And I saw Gary Vee, Tony Robbins video together on YouTube. And they said, hey, dummy, you have an idea? Turn it into a podcast, get a $20 mic on Amazon, go to anchor.fm and create a free account. I was like, okay, like just did that because I was bored. I had that entrepreneur itch, but I had no idea what podcasting was. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know what structures to do. I didn't know anything. But it was just something to create as an outlet, and it turned into end up changing my life. Like here I are 3 or 4 years later, and I have the freedom to travel, to not clock in at 9 o'clock a.m. and then clock out at 4 and go home and be miserable. Like I have the ability to just wake up and be happy and love what I want. Like some people want to do a 9-to-5 job. That's great. That makes them happy. But for me, it was not the route. And podcast, again, I can't explain enough how much podcasting has changed my life.
Man, what a plug. So I've been talking about this for such a long time. And it's not just because, I have an agency that does podcasting. It's actually the reason how the agency was born was because I started podcasting and I needed to help You know, and how it's changed my life. Well, I can't even tell you enough. It was just that, like, being able to connect like this, being able to get knowledge, insight, being able to have a reason to reach out to people. Because when you have an audience that's bigger than you, it's not about you. It's, hey, I have an audience that I can serve that's interested in your product. Would you care to come on my show to talk about it? Like, it's just such an easy, like, it's like a guard. It's like a shield. Like, and everywhere you go, it's like, hey, I have a podcast. Would you be interested? Of course, because everyone's interested in everyone's. I mean, thank God for the Gary V's and all the content, because now people know they need to be on something talking about. And so I think I would literally say, and I started podcasting since 2015 and different podcasts. Literally I've learned so much. I've made some crazy connections, like reached out to people I don't even belong to be in the same breath and like literally. And the reason I'm saying all this is I'm curious as to how you use, this is how I use my podcast. So you guys heard my benefits of all the experiments. The reason I got into short-term rentals is actually because of the guest I had. You know Michael Shogun?
Oh yeah, love him. He's a great guy.
That's my guy, and obviously he's a client of ours as well. He's turned into a friend. I went to his boutique hotel. It's beautiful. Like, that was a relationship that was fostered from a podcast, and that includes deals that I've done. It's unbelievable, right? I'm just telling you, I'm talking about. I don't have a Will-sized audience, right? Like, Will's crushing it. I have a very humble audience size, and it's still a powerful networking tool. So now, Will, how have you used your podcast engine in your world? I use it for experiment and learning. Have you done the same? Have you done something different with it? And tell us a little bit about the whole podcasting, and obviously give us the plug, because you've done 2 different podcasts from what I see, and I'd love to kind of hear how that panned out.
Yeah. Well, it started out like I had no audience. Like, I had maybe 1 or 2 people from my hometown that like plugged it in when I posted on Facebook for the first time. So it was like, yeah, I got 2 people. But when I first started, I just started reaching out to everybody that I admired or was like, yo, I think they have a good audience on Instagram or Facebook or whatever platform. And I want to do such a good episode with them that they go share it and people start listening in. That was kind of my start. That was how I built my network. I was like, I just want the best people, the best audience to crush an episode with them that they were proud to share. So that way, when they shared it, they sold it to their audience and their audience became mine. Granted, that changed. Like I feel like people don't understand the organic growth and reach of podcasting, because when I was creating the show, I went with Slick Talk. At first, I just played off my last name, Wil Slickers. I was like, that sounds like a great pod. But then I looked Apple Podcasts. There's tons of podcasts called Slick Talk, and I was like, I'm not going to get lost in this mess of other shows called Slick Talk. So I went Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Hospitality was that key word where I found out that there was back then 2018. It was like the beginning of 2018 when I started the show. Was that there was like maybe 3 or 4 hospitality podcasts that showed up. The rest, like, you'd have to type in hospitality directly to find it. So I was like, this is great. There's no one serving this market. And that's how I found, like, that's how I wanted to learn about hospitality more. I was still very young in the industry. I just, left a hotel for 2 years, and that like was my only experience. So I didn't know much about hotels, and I wanted to learn more. So I started creating this podcast where I could go learn more. I wanted to learn. And then now I just went through my reviews, and there was a review that said, I love how Will has learned with us. He's been very vulnerable, that he's not an expert, or like, I can't say not, he wasn't an expert, but he was learning with us through this whole time. Like, it was kind of something really cool to read, because I didn't see it that way until now. Like, I didn't see that I was learning. I just was wanting to connect with people that had so much to offer. And now how that's changed into my business is that I've realized I have had some of the biggest companies in short-term rentals or hotels and hospitality on the show. I've learned so much from them. They've become mentors in such a unique way that I have an opportunity. It would be a shame if I wasted to not act on and create my own. Like, I had a management company prior to this one that I have now. I sold my shares in November, but I thought to myself, it would be a shame to not take everything I've learned from the show and from my guests and implement it and apply it, and, like you like to say, use my company, quote unquote, as an experiment. When granted, like it's not an experiment, like I want it to be really successful, but I'm going to try every damn thing I've ever learned on this show and see how I can make my company the best of the best, because I've had nothing but the best of the best on the show. So I don't know. It's just because it's like your case study is right there. You just need to grab the information and literally pull the trigger.
That's phenomenal. And so was it always, by the way, I love how you said that. And it is, you're getting the ingredients, right? Mm-hmm. And was it always one podcast? Because I want to make sure that I got that correctly. I know it's the Hospitality Podcast and Good Morning Hospitality. Is that the full name?
Yeah. So I have Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast, which is my main podcast. And then I have another morning show that we do every Monday morning with the business director of development from NoiseAware, Michael Golden. And then we have another show that is, sorry, not another show, another co-host that is named Michael Ross from bidroom.com, which is a hotel subscription platform for travelers. So it's 2 shows. And to be honest, soon to be a 3rd show. We haven't launched it yet, but we've recorded 3 episodes so far. It's called The Big Giveback, and it's a hospitality and travel entrepreneur pitch show. So other travel and hospitality entrepreneurs are pitching to a panel of other hospitality and travel entrepreneurs for any type of way that they can give back. It's not like full secure funding or angel investing like Shark Tank or anything, but can they connect them with resources? Can they give them free product? Can they introduce them to people? Can they give back in a different way that, money can't help, right? So, a lot of companies, need an angel investor, but could the right connection to someone who has all the resources and tools to make their business grow to the way that they need it be life-changing as well? Yes. So that's our other show.
That's a very neat concept. So there's no money involved.
Not no money. The panel has offered, to become angel investors if they found the right company, but the whole point is to give back. So what can I give back? Time, resource, money. It's really pretty much any of those.
Oh my gosh, so scary. Similar path. I literally had a meetup called Other People's Time. You either have time, resources, or a skill set to offer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's beautiful, man. How refreshing is that? Wow. So literally we've come full circle. You even plugged us. And for a second, I thought you were going to say the big experiment was going to be the 3rd show you're launching, man. I got hyped, man. I was like, oh, we finna collab, bro. It's happening right here. But it's all good. You literally could be our case study. I'm just so happy to see real practitioners, humble practitioners, put in the work and have results. And I think it's just fascinating to see that. Look, we're right at the top of the hour. We want to make sure that we respect your time. So it's been a blast having you in the lab come full circle. Where I can find you? Which I'm very humbled, but where can our listeners tap in more into your podcast, your network, your company? Like, where can we find out and engage with you the most?
Yeah, well, the reason why you can find me so quickly is because I love being a part of the Invested Talent family now. So thank you for that. Just want to give you that shameless plug because it's honestly been a game changer so far, just to finally be able to have hands off where I can focus on curating content in different ways that I've never been able to, because I've been so focused on editing and scheduling and copywriting and graphics. And like, to have that freedom now is it's actually given me a lot of stress relief. So I'm really excited. But a lot of people, anyone else that's listening, can do is slicktalkthepodcast.com. And that's where pretty much all my stuff lives. We're updating more with the management company website and a few other things, but the podcast is where pretty much it's updated almost daily. So
you heard it here first, guys. He came into the lab, he delivered, he showed you his ingredients, he shared his journey. And Will, we can't thank you enough for stepping into the lab. And just like that, we are out.